When you think of your hometown, what do you think about? I live in my hometown. After I graduated high school, I moved away for probably 15 years and then came back. And in fact, I live in the same neighborhood that I played in when I was a kid. Some of my best friend's parents actually live just right across the street. But whether you've ever gone back to your hometown or not, it does shape us, where we live, where we grow up, the time that we grow up. So I've been thinking about St. Mary Euphrasia and a little island in the Atlantic Ocean off the west coast of France called Noirmoutier, her hometown. Come back and let's talk about a few things maybe she learned growing up there. Noirmoutier is a small island in the Atlantic Ocean off the west coast of France. Today the population is roughly 4,600, so you can imagine how much smaller it was when Mary Euphrasia was growing up there. I'll put a link to information about Noirmoutier in the video description if you're curious to learn more. Mary Euphrasia's childhood home is still there, and the house currently runs as a retreat house. So a little bit more about Noirmoutier. In the year 674, a monk named Saint Philbert arrived on the island with around 70 monks, and he lived there for about 10 years until he died. Well, he had a huge impact on the lives of those who were already there, and he continues to be the patron saint of the island. The island was named Noirmoutier, coming from the word noir, which means black, and moutier, which means monk. So that was the black robes that the monks would wear. So that's what Noirmoutier is named for. He did a lot to better the living conditions and to teach people about the Christian faith. He also taught them how to extract salt from the sea. And this is a skill that's still practiced in the same way on the island today. Noirmoutier is famous for their salt, and it's delicious. So St. Philbert taught them how to irrigate and how to harness wind power. He taught them how to build roads. He also built a church and a monastery that held 900 monks. And that's where he was eventually buried and where his crypt still is to this day. So this island of Noirmoutier gives me hope. When Mary Euphrasia's parents first moved there in 1794, this was 2 years before she was born. And they moved there because they were being imprisoned. You might know that this was at the very end of the French Revolution, and her parents were arrested and they were brought to the island on treason. And they were brought there because it was a prison colony. In the few years that Noirmoutier was a prison, thousands of people were executed. But by the time Mary Euphrasia was born, things were getting back to somewhat normal. She didn't experience any of the terror that came before her. And for us right now, things feel hard and they feel weird and they feel terrible. And we're experiencing a lot of fear, a lot of unknown. For some of us, sickness and sadly death. But the good thing is that it's not always going to be like that. And so that light of knowing that things aren't always going to be this way brings me a lot of hope, and that's something that Noirmoutier says to me. So growing up on Noirmoutier did a lot to shape Mary Euphrasia's character. We know that she had a very free spirit and that she experienced a lot of freedom in her life. She could run and play on the island's beaches and the forests, much more than any girl born to an aristocratic family on the mainland would have known. She was free from the typical girl expectations of learning to serve a husband, entertain guests, look nice, and manage servants in a home. In fact, the island didn't even have a formal school until she was 13. So as an adult, Mary Euphrasia often spoke in metaphors from nature. And I like to think that that's because she spent so much time in it as a child. In the early 1800s, when she was growing up, there were no video games, no TV, no radio, no electricity, certainly no Instagram or Twitter or cell phones or any of the other things that clutter up our minds today. Instead, she had fresh air and beaches and rocks to climb and woods to explore and friends to play with. Now look, I'm not trying to idealize the early 1800s before there was technology at all. I am super happy to be living in the year 2020 and to have hygiene and modern medicine and vaccinations and all of that wonderful stuff. But I am saying that the freedom that was able to develop in her mind and in her spirit that was shaped by being outside was a really, really good and beneficial thing for her, and something that I wish I had more of. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I loved playing outside. In fact, I don't know if this is okay, but sometimes I remember my mom actually locking the door so that we couldn't come back inside. She let us have a dirt pit out in our backyard, and so my brothers and I and all of the neighborhood kids, we would play in the backyard, we would dig in the dirt pit, and we would fill it up with water and make a bunch of mud and get super dirty. And I would ride my bike around and pretend it was a horse, and I named her Sassy. And I got to use my imagination. And that's something that I think is really, really wonderful. And Mary Euphrasia's spirit and mind and imagination, I think, was shaped by that same freedom, if not more so. So kids today, they still play outside. Of course they do. My son Joshua, who you've seen in earlier videos, loves to ride his scooter, loves to jump on the trampoline. He makes little rock gardens in our front yard, but he also gets bored really easily and has a very low tolerance for boredom. Boredom is something that we don't like these days. If we have a spare 5 seconds, we're flipping on our phones to scroll through Reddit, Instagram, the news, or a million other things to distract us. You know this. It's okay. It's part of what we're living in, but there's a book that I've been thinking about that if you want to, you might want to check out. It's called Bored and Brilliant by Manoush Zomorodi. So I'm going to leave a link to it in the description. If you don't want to read it, I'll just tell you the gist right now. If you do want to read it, cover your ears because this is a spoiler alert, okay? The premise is that we are stunting our own creativity by not allowing our minds to rest and to be bored. When we're bored, that's often the time that we take to dream, to let our minds wander, and to come up with some of our best ideas. It's when we let ourselves hear what's actually in our hearts. And that's a really hard thing to do these days. So I like to picture Mary Euphrasia as a little girl when she was named Rose Virginie. And I like to picture her walking around in the woods. There are some woods there on Noirmoutier that are right up the coast from the beach and some rocks. And maybe in those woods she sat down and she just looked at the pattern of bark on the trees. Or maybe she saw different shapes in the leaves, or watched chipmunks and squirrels and saw where they kept their nests. Maybe there was a beehive, and maybe she would go up and sneak honey from it, and she would see how the bees flew to and from their hive. I don't know. But bees is one of the metaphors that she used to talk about community. So you might have a copy of this book, either where you work or at your home. This is called Conferences. And this is a book of talks that Mary Euphrasia gave to her sisters. And some of her sisters wrote them down. And so we have copies of them today. So listen, if you don't have a copy and you want one, please email me and I can send you an electronic version for free. So again, contact information is in the video description below, and I would be super happy to send this to you. There's amazing, amazing stuff in here. So here's a little bit about what she said. She said, bees have the instinct to share out the work among themselves, helping each other in a wonderful orderliness and without confusion. First, together they set to work arranging the hive, seeking the necessary materials from all sides, and sometimes from a long way off without ever losing their way. Bees seem unable to survive without working or obeying. May it be so with us. May fidelity to our mission and diligence in doing the task assigned to you be your blessed life's work. Like so many bees, you fly from flower to flower, bringing your harvest to the common store. This seems to be the mysterious work that goes on in the hive. Everyone engaged for the general good, keeping nothing for herself or himself. So this pandemic has shown me how necessary community is. I knew it before, but now I know it even more and on a different level. It's more important, I think, when we can't be together in person. I think that people have the same instinct to work together that bees do. When we are our best selves, we are sharing and thoughtful of others. We're busy and we're working and we're getting stuff done to take care of everybody in need. The Good Shepherd mission must continue working and moving forward, even if it looks different than what we're used to. We are a part of a worldwide community that is working at the same purpose, the same mission. And so be encouraged, shepherds. We truly are in this together. So that's all for today. I hope you've had a wonderful week. I would really love to just sit down and have coffee with you and chat and hold your hand and see how you're doing and bring you any kind of encouragement or positivity that is possible. If you want to contact me, again, information is in the description below. You can leave a voicemail, a text, an email, a video, and I would love to hear from you. Let me know what you need. Let me know how you're seeing the mission work in these days. How are you being community to each other? How are you loving each other? What are you noticing? Thanks for being here. Praying for you this week.